Hi, this is Editor's Take. I'm Sakshi Batra, and with me is Gaurav Choudhury, is the Deputy Executive Editor of Moneycontrol, and we are going to be discussing about the fall in exports seen for the first time in 9 months, and that is due to the trade tensions between US and China. Thanks a lot, Gaurav, for joining in. Now, as we had earlier thought that even though trade war is not good for the entire world, but the fallout of US-China trade tensions could actually be positive for India, but that doesn't seem to be the case as far as the export figures are concerned.
Yeah, so we just need to keep two things in mind. First, in the month of June, the fall in exports have also been brought about by a significant, a key characteristic that is probably a one-off in the month of June, that is shutting down of the ONGC Mangalore refinery, petrochemical and the Jamnagar refinery. That is because of plant maintenance, and that has brought down the value of petroleum exports. Petroleum exports have also come down. The value of petroleum exports have also come down in the month of June because crude oil prices were at a lower level in the month of June. So that have brought down. Having said that, however, in the rest of the cases, particularly in non-oil and non-gems and jewelry items, there has been a discernible fall in exports, and that is primarily because the global trade is going through a particularly wobbly period, given rising protectionism and also the ongoing trade war between two of the biggest economies in the world, the US and China, that has actually trampled the world trade market in a manner that is affecting everybody, every country, including India.
Absolutely. So the exports for the month of June have actually slipped about 10% to $25 billion. Imports have also fallen to the similar tune of 9% odd, and which has left the trade deficit at this period of time at over $15 billion. So is that a big concern right now?
Yeah, it is a concern. It is a concern because if the Indian economy has to, if you have to match the ambition of turning India into $5 trillion economy, we cannot have a situation where India's merchandise export continue to maintain only a very small proportion of global trade. India's share in global trade has to rise significantly if the $5 trillion ambition is to be achieved. That is so far as the medium term is concerned. But the current fall in exports is clearly something that is not just related to India. The external conditions are such that Indian exports have got affected. But there are a few things that the Indian government or Indian policy makers probably can look at to make Indian exports more competitive, price competitive. One is obviously something to do with GST, where the council can actually think about bringing down rates or actually improving the cash flow system through by accelerating the flow of refunds to exporters. These are things that the government and the GST council will have to look at very closely if Indian exports are to remain price competitive in a rapidly it's not a rapidly shrinking, but it's a very wobbly global trade market at this point in time. And if every country is jostling for space, and if India has to move ahead from the crowd, the products will have to be price competitive. That can come only through a bit of lower taxes would always help their cause. The problem here, however, is from a domestic market point of view, is that imports of items such as machinery and engineering goods have also come down, and that is a clear indication of shaky domestic demand. So if companies are not importing machinery or engineering goods, that is a proxy to measure a very shaky investment activity that is taking place, which again is a function of low demand. So companies are not adding capacity lines, investment is not really expanding, and that is showing up in lower imports of these kind of goods.
Absolutely. So what is your outlook on the trade talks between US and China? Because that is also a major factor which we have seen in the fall in exports in the month of June. We have been seeing off and on talks between US and China. What's the way forward?
After the G20 meeting, there was a lot of hope. There was a lot of optimism that the global trade tensions will ease. In fact, in the bilateral discussion that that Prime Minister Modi had with President Trump, and after that it was decided that the Indian government will hold the Indian there will be ministerial level, trade ministerial level talks that will begin shortly after, and to address the key rough edges that currently dominate India-US trade relations.
Yes.
Likewise for India, US and the China. Any trade tension, any trade-related tension between the two largest economies of the world is not good news for world global trade, regardless of the fact that it has, I mean, there's always a positive spin-off, which many analysts have been talking about, that it opens up an opportunity for Indian exports to get into the space that China has vacated. But that is again it's a long stretch. So in the short term, the trade tensions need to be dealt with, and it essentially that the core of the trade tension or core of the tariff war, the global tariff war that is currently taking place, lies at the trade tension between the US and US and China, and that needs to be dealt with. Once that settles down, global trade will move on to a new higher equilibrium, which will help every country.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot then, Gaurav, for sharing all that insight. Well, we do have to accept that rising protectionism has definitely hurt Indian exports in the month of June. We have seen almost a 10% fall in Indian exports as well. But we'll have to brace up, because even the World Bank has projected that in 2019, global trade could be weak. With that, we come to a wrap on this edition of Editor's Take. You stay logged on to moneycontrol.com for more news and updates. Thanks for watching.